Good morning from England.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. What's the time over there?
We're at 11 a.m.
Oh, nice. It's about 10 over here in Australia.
10 p.m., right?
Yeah, 10 p.m.
Why is it so bright out?
It's these lights in here are just crazy. The curtains are closed. It's
Oh, right. I'm thinking that's your bloody window in the background. I'm thinking,
yeah,
wow,
no.
coming in.
I wish.
Oh, Brandon, listen, it's a pleasure to speak with you. First things first, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, good, man. Things are kind of starting to get back to normal here in Australia, especially in New South Wales. We're all from Sydney, so yeah, all the venues are starting to open back up again. People can actually stand at shows, so it's pretty exciting times.
Oh, so that kind of normalcy. Yeah, because obviously different countries around the world, we all got different experiences at different times of, the elephant in the room. So you guys are kind of getting your gigs back to normal. We've had that for a couple of months now over here in England, to the point where now going to a gig feels normal.
Yeah, I've seen heaps of videos of bands playing over there, just so jealous. Like, I mean, I think I went to one festival a couple months ago. It was the only one to happen really outside of WA here in Australia. And I remember sitting in the crowd just feeling like this is so illegal, like I was doing something wrong. And I was like, just the whole vibe was just like, it's so crazy to kind of be in that setting again, which is really cool.
Did it take you a little while to kind of adjust to that sort of,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
this is okay now?
Yeah, that's it for sure. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's been all we're used to now is seated shows, and the whole vibe change was crazy.
Did you go to many of them? So we had a brief little run where we attempted, particularly in the rock and metal world, to do seated shows and stuff like that, but it just never really caught on or worked.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all our shows were the same. I mean, yeah, like we kind of play a kind of rocky, like heavier rock, and all the shows. Like I think we've played 3 standing shows since we started, and the rest have all been seated. So the whole vibe and everything's kind of insanely different. But I mean, it's just good to be seeing live music. I mean, I think people still kind of stuck around even for the heavier acts. It's definitely a bit weird, but yeah, I think people just liked being out and actually being able to kind of see live music again.
Yeah, we kind of found over here, and I wonder if it's the same for you, that the desire to see live music in the early days, particularly when things were coming back, the support was super strong. So what might never have been a sold out show before was now a sold out show because it had been so long.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, like a lot of the venue, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but we had like originally started a lot of the venues kind of open back up at like a smaller capacity, obviously because of the seated and all that kind of stuff. But it gave a lot of the kind of the smaller acts to play on the bigger stages and still manage to sell it out, which was really cool.
Yeah, it's a funny one, really, because I'll use a festival that took place in this year in our country, Bloodstock, in August. I don't know if you know of it, on the more extreme side of heavier metal sort of things. But it's a big 4-day big festival, and because of the international acts not being able to travel and stuff like that, it meant they kind of had to look inwards more to the British scene and pack the entire weekend with, say, 90-95% just British bands. It was that kind of adaptation that was really kind of cool.
That's awesome. I mean, the same thing's kind of happening here. Like we have our biggest Australian festival I think it's July next year. We still have I think we have 3 international headliners, but kind of all the other acts are just 100% Australian, and like a ton of like every single other festival here is doing the same thing. So yeah, it's kind of cool to see that the festival's kind of sourcing only inside the country. The all the lineups are pretty sick. Yeah, everyone's loving it.
It's fun as well because, particularly from an outsider looking in, who may not dig too deep into, say, the Australian rock and metal and music scene, and only really know the big names that have come from Australia, and you know who I'm talking about, and that, to then look and see a lineup that is filled with, well, I guess, young and up and coming bands.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's weird. The whole COVID thing's kind of been, obviously it's been more of a curse, but I mean, there's definitely been kind of some blessings for like the younger acts, especially. And I mean, even with kind of releasing music. I mean, it's the whole kind of downtime gave a lot of acts some space to kind of drop some more music, and like especially when there was no shows, it's like all people are focusing on it, kind of new releases and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's definitely been rough, but I think there's definitely some like hidden gems that have come from this whole massive dilemma.
Do you think though, and do you have any worries that as things around the world get back to some sort of normality, whatever that means, that the influx of artists from the biggest to the smallest, all trying to find space for their music / live shows, is then going to bury a ton?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to happen. I mean, like we're seeing even now, like I work inside the music industry, and like trying to book or get holds on dates at venues for like the next 6 months all across Australia is just impossible, because all the bigger acts have pushed all their tours back. Like pretty much all the acts have. So like if you were planning a album tour in like 3 months or whatever, you're pretty much screwed. Any weekend dates are just gone. So no chance.
Oh,
Yeah, it's rough, man.
Well, overall then, I have to ask, how have you been holding up personally throughout the last 18, 20 months, the COVID times?
I mean, pretty well. It's just been a lot of working from home, writing from home. I mean, there's not been a lot of practicing going on. I mean, we've had weird like influxes of like everything opening back up for like a couple weeks, maybe a month or two, and then completely shutting back down just because the government's so stupid and backwards in their way of thinking. So literally it's like when things open up, because everything's on lockdown, so you can't go and practice, but then things open up and you're like, we might only have 2 weeks. So you quickly go and book a show without any practice, just so you can actually get back out there and have some fun. But I mean, it's just the whole thing's, for me, I mean, we recorded a whole EP. So like we kind of kept ourselves busy with that, and then just writing at home as much as possible, trying to use the time wisely, getting socials kind of up to date, all that kind of stuff. Basically, yeah, anything that you can do outside of that whole live music scene.
Well, that's the way, isn't it? You kind of had no choice. And from the biggest to the smallest band in the entire world, everyone was trying to do exactly the same thing. Did you find yourself looking, particularly maybe after the early days when people finding their feet in regards to live streams and things like that, did you guys stop and look and see what others were doing and take any prompts and ideas and think, okay, we could maybe consider doing some of these things?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as soon as it first started, everyone was kind of, getting on that chain of like, oh, the live streams thing really took off.
Yeah.
I think we did 1 or 2 like live stream sets that went really well. And then kind of everything just shut down again, and it all kind of died off. But I think it's good, because from this, I think we'll see like more of that. It's a little bit more normalized, which is good as well. Like it's kind of like a new genre in the live music scene kind of thing. And similarly, like as well with like when we have one-off shows, when the capacities got cut in half, artists started doing like 2 sessions in the one night. And now in Australia, that's kind of like the normal. So like when it was only like one show a night, you wouldn't really ever hear of people doing 2 shows in the one night. It's now the norm, which is kind of cool, because like you sell it out, you can just add another session on, and the venues were all adjusted to it and know how to make it happen quite easily.
Oh, that is something that is definitely not happening over here. How that is actually really, really clever way to do it. Because I kind of felt like the live streams things, at least from our perspective here, was a novelty in that everyone wanted to do it at first. And then a lot of the big boys, a lot of the big bands kind of did super, super cinematic versions of it. And it kind of then that seemed to kill it in this country, because it was like, okay, well, you can't top that. This person had thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds behind this production in a live stream. What's the point of anybody else doing it?
Exactly, man. That's it. Yeah, like if you're just recording it in your garage or whatever, you kind of get it. You kind of feel a bit bummed when you see the huge guys with like their hundreds of thousands of viewers and all their donations and everything. Yeah, I agree. I reckon that's definitely what happened there.
What if anything helped you guys get through the sort of really difficult periods of the COVID times?
I mean, we have our group chat. I mean, it was just kind of staying in touch, I guess, and kind of brainstorming what we can do and what we can aim to do when it all ended, and just trying to keep our minds, or keep ourselves sane for one, and then try and kind of keep focused in anywhere we can with things that we could control. Because I feel like at the start, a lot of artists will like try, like kind of getting really bummed out about like you book a bunch of shows that all get cancelled, you have to move them. And then, but I think once you realize like you can't control any of that and you should just focus on what you can control, that the whole kind of process got a lot easier. So I think we just kind of kept reminding ourselves about that, stayed in touch, and then, yeah, just kept writing, and trying to keep focused on it all.
That's all you could do at that point. It might surprise people, I think, as well. Like, say if they checked out some of your music, particularly say the new video and the new song as well, that you guys are seasoned professionals and been around a very, very long time. But that's not actually the case with Radicals. You've late 2019, right?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, almost, I think this will be our second year. Oh, I think it was our second year to the day, like maybe a week and a half ago or something.
Oh, happy
Yeah,
anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a pretty rough time to start the whole thing. Came out the gates and they got shut down pretty quick.
Well, take us back then. How did Radicals get started?
I mean, I know, so we're a three-piece. So our drummer Miles, I went to primary school, and our bass player Nick, I went to high school with. And in primary school, Miles was the band drummer and I was the backup band drummer. So I'd be like on the triangle and he'd be on the drum kit. I was like, this guy sucks, like whatever. Then through high school, I was in music class with Nick, and we used to write and jam all the time and just, talk shit about music and what we'd like to do. And then high school finished and I kind of just was like, man, it'd be really sick to start a band. So I got Nick on board and he was keen as, and then I didn't know any drummers. So I was like, I could hit up that kid. And then I hit him up and he was like, yeah, man, cool. And we had maybe, I think like 6 practices. And then we just, for shits and gigs, just booked a show in our hometown. And yeah, it all just kind of took off from there.
Well, you really did hit the ground running. Like, and considering, as Rudy said, shortly afterwards, COVID happened, put a halt to everything. Did your initial early determination kind of waver because you kind of got started and then got stopped?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was, the whole scenario was kind of just like unfathomable. We were just like, how could something like this happen? Like, never in a million years, I think, would anyone have expected it. So yeah, I mean, like we supported a pretty big Australian artist called Ruby Fields. It was like a sold out show in front of like 400 people. And we were kind of like all on our high horses, like, this is sick, stoked as. And then I think it was like a month or maybe a month and a half later when it all kind of came crashing down. So yeah, it was pretty intense. But I mean, like in that scenario, it was like all the other bands were going through the same thing, which kind of made it easier seeing how they were kind of getting through it, and everyone was still talking in our scene. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy at first, but I mean, what can you do, I guess?
So do you reckon, did you kind of find yourselves leaning on not just each other, but also, you just mentioned the scene as well in general, that kind of thing? You're pulling together. You felt like you were in the same boat. Yeah,
I think so, for sure. I mean, because like for us especially, we'd only played 3 shows when COVID hit. And then, so we didn't really know any many other acts in the scene, but yeah, everyone kind of came together, like followed each other across socials and reached out and spoke about like G'ing up shows when we could actually do things, and supporting each other's music, especially like dropping a song and then everyone would share it. People you didn't even know, like bands you didn't even know, which was crazy. So yeah, I mean, I think we were pretty surprised by how well the scene and kind of the industry in terms of the local bands kind of took care of each other. It was really cool to see.
Absolutely. That's amazing. It's great to hear.
Yeah.
Because, the whole cutthroat world of music, as it was, kind of always creates this scene of you all trying to stamp on each other's fingers rather than help each other up.
Yeah, for sure. It's the cliche.
Yeah, cliche, exactly. Untitled is your latest single. What some might call ordered chaos.
Yeah.
To a degree. Was it as chaotic as it seems?
I mean, I think that's the perfect way to sum it up. I mean, that song was just this whole song focuses around like 2 notes on the guitar with like maybe 3 frets thrown in there somewhere. And it was just a song where I just brought it to practice, and I was like, I don't want this to have any meaning. I don't want it to make any sense. Like, let's just throw some words out there and see what happens. So I just had this kind of melody in my head, and I was just like, na, na, and I was like, what's 3 syllables? And we throw a word in there. Like, that's great. And yeah, the whole thing just came together to be this like crazy mess. Yeah, and it's been great. I mean, it's been hard to remember the words because none of them make any sense, and until we got to the studio they weren't kind of set in place. So doing it live, it was easy and didn't really matter, but now that it's kind of out there, I have to learn the lyrics and try to stick to them, which is going to be tough. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, just release more music and then you can get rid of it from the set list.
Exactly, man, that's it. 100%.
How about the video? So obviously you had that idea behind the actual song, but you also released a video at the same time. Quite a watchable, unique video, I think is the right word. Were you trying to express anything, or were you just trying to match up to the fact that it's a bit of a chaotic song?
Yeah, no, that's spot on. So I mean, I said to the boys, like, do we want to do a music video for this song? Because like, if we do, I don't really know what the hell we're gonna throw in there. And then our drummer was just like, well, why don't you be the mum, Nick be the dad, and I'll be your son, and then we can watch ourselves on the TV playing the song. And we're just like, okay, sweet. So then we hit up our director, and he's like, yeah, this is amazing, let's do it. I mean, it was easy for the other boys. I mean, Nick put on his suit and his nice dress shoes. Miles just put on something out of his wardrobe, and then I had to get dressed up in makeup, shave my arms and legs, put on a dress, straighten my hair, and put lipstick on. It was it was a bit different for me, but I mean, yeah, we just mucked around for like, I think the whole day shooting was like 6 hours, and we were just having a great time. And it turned out pretty much, I mean, I don't know what we had in our heads, but that what came out we thought was as close as it was going to get to kind of that chaotic, confusing vibe for sure.
Because when I watched it, I thought, okay, maybe you didn't maybe you didn't mean this. I wasn't sure. I'd read obviously the information and stuff like that, and I thought, okay, there is something here in the sense that you could sort of look at it and go, well, it's like a nuclear family, that style thing, you know, bored and at home, and the bright, because the hue particularly in the video has got this kind of dead, almost dull look to it, but obviously the brightness from what comes to you guys playing on the TV and stuff like that, and then the reaction to that, I ended up sort of over analyzing it, and I was kind of thinking, am I getting it wrong in that you don't need this much depth of thinking behind it, and it's just this?
No, I mean, that's perfect. The whole kind of vibe of the song, especially when I wrote it, and like the whole process was just like, I feel like if you didn't tie anything to it, that every single person would just have a completely different perspective, and like there's no wrong answer at all because there was nothing we were kind of aiming for. So like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just whatever your mind imagines, or like that's what it's meant to be. It's completely different for everyone.
Yeah, interpret as you so choose, as most artists like their music to be.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. What do you
Sure.
what do you make of comparisons? These comparisons that are being made for radicals to early Nirvana and say Silverchair. Would you rather not have any? As obviously those sort of comparisons, when they're put out there, creates an image in someone's head, a tough image potentially to live up to.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously they're the acts that, I mean, most people in our genre look up to. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like, it's definitely amazing to be kind of put amongst those ranks. But yeah, I guess you kind of don't want to be tied down too much to it. But I mean, we don't really mind. I mean, obviously it's a massive compliment, and we just play music because we love playing it. And if people like, people are always going to find tie-ins to those kind of acts. But yeah, I mean, whatever people think is fine by us. I mean, we love it regardless. If people think it's kind of the same, or it's already been around and we've just kind of done the same thing, or if we put a spin on it, it's all kind of the same to us. I mean, we appreciate any attention nonetheless, good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely well said. I'm not a big fan of this whole "it's been done before" bollocks, because have you listened to other genres? Have you listened to thrash metal and death metal?
Yeah,
It doesn't get that varied.
yeah, 100%.
I always laugh as well, because I always find when I'm talking to Australian bands and bands that are from Australia and listen to their music, that any comparison is desperately always trying to find another Australian band, a big one to make it to, but in Australia, obviously some of the biggest bands tend to lean towards rock music. We're talking AC/DC, Rose Tattoo, and the likes, Airborne and things like that. So
Yeah.
to see Silverchair pulled out, and I haven't, Silverchair, oh my God, from my youth, it's always amusing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I heard I was a massive Silverchair fan growing up, and when I heard the comparison, I was like, holy shit. I was like, that's right, Silverchair and Matt. And I was kind of like, yeah, it does kind of make sense. But yeah, it is crazy to kind of like have such that influence growing up, and then completely, like, especially with Silverchair, just completely kind of forget until you hear about it and go, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and the dream being that in 15, 20 years' time, there'll be a young band, be it from Australia around the world, that cites Radicals as their influence in comparison.
Yeah, see what happens. Fingers crossed.
Do you think Radicals are well placed to deal with the expectations and demands of modern bands, seeing as you are a modern band? So I'm talking social media, constant content, always having to be switched on for the fan base.
I'm not too sure. I mean, we kind of just go with the flow. I mean, we don't really put too much thought into all our social media and all that kind of stuff. I guess, yeah, like, I mean, we just head to the studio whenever we can afford it. We get PR whenever we can afford it. We buy new merch whenever we can afford it. Just kind of go with the flow with the whole thing. And yeah, I mean, we don't really care too much about what people think in terms of the negative side of things. And I mean, the positives are all amazing. But yeah, I feel like we haven't really felt too much pressure yet, just because I don't think we notice enough. But I guess that's a good thing.
It is a good thing, but and I kind of hear it in your voice, you kind of have to, particularly as things grow.
Oh yeah, eventually.
No
yeah.
choice.
Yeah, I feel like we're in the lucky stage now where we can just go, nah, it's all good. But yeah, if things get a bit more crazier, then it'll be a bit harder to ignore, I think.
Do I have to ask then, considering, although you don't pay that much attention to it, when you do come to happen to promote yourself on social media and stuff like that, is it an aspect you enjoy? Can you separate band from yourself when it comes to having to be online?
That's a good question. I don't, yeah, I mean, I have to handle all the social stuff just because Miles and Nick are completely useless at it. But yeah, I hate that part of having to put the captions in and all that kind of stuff and choosing what pictures to put up and all that jazz. I mean, I just try and keep it as kind of fun and basic as possible and not try to be too serious with it or have a bit of fun. But yeah, I don't enjoy that aspect. It's very tough trying to figure out what to say.
I don't think I speak to any band or artist, from the biggest to the smallest, that say they do enjoy it. Maybe they might have a few years ago, but I think these days nobody does.
Yeah, it's just like a bit of a burden.
Well, yeah, when you're being measured, on likes and follows rather than, say, views and sales, it suddenly becomes a different story, harder work.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, the whole kind of everything now, you see artists above other artists who can sell way more tickets just because they have thousands more followers, which is just crazy to me.
And what does it mean? Because when you can buy them, when you can literally spend some money and buy them, does it really mean anything?
Exactly. That's it. Spot on.
Well, you guys have been making great headway in your own country, particularly short amount of time and COVID-19. Are you surprised that Australia has taken to you so quickly?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's we kind of just started this thing. I guess it's how kind of every artist or most artists start, is you just sort of show looking at this band. It's just amazing. Like, you're having a great time. Everyone's having a great time. And you're just like, I'd love to do this. Like, this would be amazing. Yeah, and when starting it, we never thought that anyone would kind of care at all. So when people did start giving a shit, it was pretty amazing. I mean, it's still weird now going to shows and having just or even selling out shows or having random people come up to us and wearing our merch or saying they love our music. It's pretty surreal. I don't think any of us will ever kind of get used to it at all.
Hopefully there's a day when you do and you get to be, I don't know, have a rock star moment where you get to do the whole, do you know who I am? Bollocks.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, I suppose not what is, do you have a sort of long-term plan in regards to trying to break out of Australia? It's not the easiest task, as we know.
I mean, not really. I mean, with this next year, we've started getting on some festivals, which is huge. That was kind of our next step. But funnily enough, the next place we want to go to is actually the UK. Our drummer's obsessed, and most of our favorite bands are from the UK. So I mean, yeah, we're kind of we're talking to some people trying to figure out how we can get over there and make it happen, and just turn it into like a massive holiday and just play in front of some crazy people.
Oh, cool. Right. Yeah. Come over for a week or something, play a few shows around some of the cities and then chill out.
Yeah,
the sights,
sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been to the UK a few times and it's been amazing.
Okay, that's awesome. Oh, see, I was going to ask, what if you could pick one place in the world to travel to tomorrow and play? Where would you go? But I guess you've already answered that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Well, you said some of your favorite bands are from this country. What bands?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, Arctic Monkeys are the number one. Obviously, they're kind of, I think, the pedestal, or at least for us, in terms of rock acts. And then another huge act we look up to, especially in music and kind of our tones and stuff, is Royal Blood. I mean, they're absolutely insane. But yeah, I mean, those are the two kind of main ones in terms of at least influences and all that stuff. I mean, Led Zeppelin, obviously, all that kind of stuff. But
what do you have any plans for the remainder of 2020? Well, I mean, we're almost at the end, we're halfway through November, so you may not have any. But what about into 2022? You mentioned some festivals. Do you have any sort of longer term plans that you can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, this Sunday we're actually shooting a music video for our next song. It's going to be even crazier than the last one, so that'll be interesting. And then we've got two hometown shows to finish the year off in December, which we'll be shooting another music video for. That one's almost sold out, so that one will be a really special way to kind of finish the year off, because now venues will be back to like normal capacities and everyone can stand again. So it'll be our first standing show in like over a year, so awesome. Everyone's pretty stoked. And then into 2022, we've got our EPs dropping at the start of the year. We've got a festival over New Year's, and then Yours and Ours festival in April, which is like one of the biggest ones over here. So yeah, really stoked to kind of play that. And then yeah, towards the end of the year, we've got two more as well, which aren't announced yet, but those ones are up in Queensland, so out in New South Wales, which will be pretty exciting, getting in front of some new faces.
Oh, awesome. What about actual releases? Are you just going to continue with the kind of singles, or are you planning something bigger?
So right now we've got two more singles to release, and then we've got an EP, which is 6 songs, so 3 new songs on there. And then we're already back into the studio in, I think, 3 weeks to do another single, which we'll just sit on until we kind of we want to get like that one together really well, because it's kind of one of our new favorites. So we're going to save up a bit of money, play as many shows as we can, and try and make that one a special release. But yeah, in terms of releases, that's kind of where we're at the moment.
There's plenty going on. Check them out, Radicals. If you want to hear a quick song of it, check out Untitled. It was released November 5th. Brandon, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?